Hey y'all, welcome back to another ballistics gel test. Today we're shooting Hornady Handgun Hunter, their 200 grain Monoflex load in 44 Magnum. And here is the box for that Hornady Handgun Hunter 200 grain Monoflex 44 mag ammo. Here is some promo information for that Monoflex bullet. Feel free to stop, pause, and read all that if you would like to. Basically, it's saying that it holds together and expands. And here's our muzzle velocity. It says 1475 feet per second. No doubt that is handgun velocities. We will be shooting this from an 18-inch barreled carbine. It'll be interesting to see how much more velocity we can get, if any. I would expect some more velocity than that out of a rifle. So let's yank one out. Here it is, nice and clean looking. Big ol' hollow point with some flexible material down in there to keep it from clogging or whatever. Let's go shoot it and see how it does. And the test rifle today is my vintage Ruger 9644 carbine, chambered in 44 mag, of course. It's got an 18-inch barrel, and up top I've got a Leupold Ultralight 2.5x scope. And coming on back, of course, I've got one of my leather cartridge cuffs. Check out my website, masonleather.com. I would absolutely love to make you one. And coming on around to the other side, I've got to show you, I've got my Black Bear design. We'll be taking 3 shots from 50 yards, firing into 10% ballistics gel that has been calibrated to meet the FBI's ballistics testing protocol. And while ballistics gel isn't an exact proxy for big game, it does provide a repeatable medium through which to test various bullets and ammo against each other. After the shots, we'll examine bullet expansion, weight retention, penetration, and velocity. My goal is to provide hunters like you and I with the most objective information possible to help us make the best choice for our particular hunting situation. The ballistics gel in this video has been sourced from Clear Ballistics. You can find a link in the description. So let's go ahead and shoot it. And let's look at the velocity for that Hornady Handgun Hunter 200 grain Monoflex bullet out of the 44 Magnum. Our high was 1594, our low 1489, and our average was 1549. That's actually pretty darn slow compared to some other ammo I've tested out of an 18-inch barreled carbine, and being such a light bullet, I'm kind of surprised. And I'm down at the blocks after shooting that Hornady Handgun Hunter 200 grain Monoflex out of my Ruger 44 mag carbine. Let's take a look at penetration. I did capture 3 bullets with a caveat. So this one right here, we're going to give it 18 inches. This one went a little deeper. We're going to give it 20 inches. And the third bullet, and it was the third one that I shot just by chance, is down in the bottom of the block right there, about 15.5, but we're not going to count that one for penetration value because it did table skate just a little bit. It looks like it held together really well and it did a good job, but it was grinding on the wood of the table for several inches, and no doubt that hampered penetration, so we're not going to count that one in our average. We will take a look at it though. And here are those Hornady Handgun Hunter 200 grain Monoflex bullets recovered out of the gel fired from the 44 mag. These things are an interesting case. Let's talk about it. So weight retention, we saw 194, 195, and 195 grains for an average of about 195 grains retained weight. That works out to 97% weight retention. And honestly, that other 3% might be that gelatin plasticky material that is in the hollow point cavity before they're fired. So I'm extremely happy with weight retention. I wouldn't expect anything less from a monolithic bullet like this. And onto expansion, this is where these things really excel. These expanded more than any other 44 Magnum bullet I have tested thus far. Prior to this, the Underwood 240 grain hollow point load had expanded the most, but these beat that. We saw 0.78 inches, 0.81 inches, and 0.86 inches for an average of 0.82 inches expanded diameter, which works out to 1.9x expansion, almost 2x expansion, and that is from a 44 mag. A 0.429 inch bullet is what it starts out as. Absolutely incredible expansion, and very uniform and consistent as well. So here's where this load gets kind of interesting. On to velocity. Our high velocity was 1594, our low was 1489, for an average of 1549 feet per second, versus the factory build velocity of 1475, which I assume is from a revolver, from a pistol length barrel, 6 inches or 8 inches, something like that. And firing from the 18-inch barrel of my rifle, we only gained 74 feet per second on average. That's where this load is kind of weird. I would have expected a lot more velocity gain. Every other 44 mag load I've tested out of a rifle has gained substantial velocity over its pistol spec velocity, and this just didn't do it. I mean, we gained a little bit, 74 feet per second, but nothing like the other loads I've tested. Very interesting. And then penetration wise, we're only going to count 2 of the bullets because remember, one of them table skated when I fired it into the gel, so we're not going to count that one. The 2 that didn't though, we got 18 inches and 20 inches for an average of 19 inches of penetration. I'm pretty happy with it, especially considering how much these expanded, and they're a little bit light for a 44 mag bullet, at least compared to some of the other loads we've tested. And on a kinetic energy, with a 200 grain bullet going on average 1,549 feet per second, that works out to 1,065 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. All right, y'all, time for my final thoughts on that Hornady Handgun Hunter 200 grain load. Out of the 44 mag, it's the Monoflex bullet. This is an interesting load. I have a special use where I think this particular load might excel. I'll talk about that at the end. Weight retention was excellent, 97%. Didn't expect anything less. This is a solid copper monolithic bullet, or whatever it's made of, some sort of copper alloy. Retained most of its weight. Expansion was insane. 1.9x expansion from a 44 mag is nuts. This stuff expanded more than any other 44 mag load I've tested out of a rifle thus far. It opened up flowers of death. Really happy with the expansion. The velocity was what was really interesting here. The box spec was 1475. On average, we only came in at 1549, so 74 feet per second extra versus box spec. That is really, really low compared to other 44 mag loads I've tested out of a rifle. Remember, the box spec, unless specified, I'm assuming is from a pistol, and then we shot this out of a rifle and only saw 74 feet per second more. I don't know, make of that what you will, it's kind of strange. Then penetration-wise, pretty decent, 19 inches on average. No doubt that massive 1.9x expansion hindered penetration a bit, but it's still right there around the 20-inch mark I like to see for medium game. I'm happy with the penetration for what it is. So the special use case I could see for this ammo, because if it were me and I was hunting with a 44 mag rifle, I don't know that this stuff would be my first choice. It wouldn't be my first choice, but where I could see it being used is as a youth load. Say you've got, a younger hunter or an inexperienced shooter, and you want something that's a little bit, low recoiling. This could be a great option because it has everything else. The velocity just wasn't blistering like some other 44 mag loads out of a rifle, but it's still plenty to put something down, and it has all the other metrics. It has the weight retention, the expansion, the penetration is pretty good, and it just doesn't kick very much. So I think this ammo, this Hornady Handgun Hunter 200 grain Monoflex out of the 44 mag, would be a great option for an inexperienced shooter or a younger shooter who might be recoil sensitive. And check out my website masonleather.com and get yourself some leather gear handmade by me just for you. I've been handcrafting leather gear for hunters for over a decade, and I would love to make you something. And there are hundreds of reviews on my website, so you can see what real hunters have to say about their Mason leather gear. And also tons of photos showing all the customizable options, including name, initial, and caliber stamping, as well as wild game designs and more. Everything is handmade by me right here in the USA. I would love to be a part of your hunt through my leather gear. And it helps support this channel, so I can bring you more hunting ammo ballistics gel tests, and lots of other cool stuff in the future. The link will be in the video description and the pinned comment, or you can just type masonleather.com into your web browser, and click one of these cards for more hunting ammo ballistics gel tests.